And from our studios here in Accra, welcome to Joy News Prime with me, Blessed Soga. Our lead stories this hour: sabotage by some staff of the Electricity Company of Ghana leads to over 400 million Ghana cedis revenue loss. That's according to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, as fear increases of a looming power crisis owing to government's failure to honor debt obligations yet again to independent power producers.
In a team to ECG. They were collecting 450 million Ghana cedis a month. When we sent in the team, there was sabotage.
We'll get the details from the Vice President shortly. Rape, murder and manslaughter cases in the Upper West region hang in the balance as members of the jury there stage a walkout of unpaid allowances. We'll get you the very latest from the Upper West region. And there's a major policy shift in pharmaceutical industries as government explores the removal of taxes on imported medicines and also raw materials for local manufacturers. What's the implication? We'll explore that shortly. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is accusing some staff of the Electricity Company of Ghana of sabotage. This situation, he claims, resulted in a significant revenue loss of over 400 million Ghana cedis. Now, ECG may have to cut power supply to households in the coming days because it is heavily indebted to independent power producers who are currently mounting pressure on the company for the release of outstanding payments amounting to some $2 billion. The power producers held a meeting Thursday over the failure of government to honor its indebtedness and the debt obligations, accusing government of lack of good faith. And we know that that amount has been accruing this month as well, some $200,000 also adding up to the debt, making it some $2.3 billion as we understand. But the Vice President has been commenting on why possibly this is happening. According to Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, some staff of the Electricity Company of Ghana were responsible for serious revenue leakages at the Electricity Company of Ghana. The reason for which he believes that the company was unable to raise significant revenue. With the help of the national security, the head of the economic management team says a whole new architecture has been established now for ECG.
We noticed a very, very interesting piece of data which speaks to the problems at ECG. We looked at the data, and for a period of 4 years or so, the revenues of ECG were virtually constant. I said, this cannot be possible. How can you get more customers and your revenue is constant? And the interesting thing was that the value was virtually the same, the constant value. They didn't even take their time to change the value. So we said, no, we need to send in a team to look at the architecture of revenue collections at ECG and digitalize the process properly. So we sent in a team to ECG. They were collecting 450 million Ghana cedis a month. When we sent in the team, there was sabotage. Malware was introduced into the system by people working right there. We worked through that with the help of national security, and we then brought in a whole new architecture for ECG. Thanks to the Minister for Energy, Matthew Poku Prempeh. We brought in a whole new architecture for ECG. And after this completion of this work from the digitalization process, 450 million a month has now increased to 1.2 billion every month. Just think about it. You've increased from 450 million to 1.2 billion by doing nothing but making sure all payments are now electronic, no cash, and reconfiguring the architecture of the payment system at ECG. That's all we did.
That's Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who's speaking at the National Dialogue organized by the Church of Pentecost. And we'll be getting some reactions to this shortly from the Mines and Energy Committee. But first, we know that the independent power producers have been holding talks today on possibly pulling the plugs after government failed to honor its debt obligation. My colleague James Aveji has been monitoring that meeting for us, joins us via Zoom. James, what do we know about the final decision or otherwise being considered by these independent power producers? And James, kindly unmute for us so we're able to get the point you're sharing with us, James.
Okay, blessed. So I was saying that as we speak, we do not have the final outcome of that meeting yet, but what we know is that what actually triggered this meeting is that, if you remember, in that agreement signed between the ECG and the IPPs, the ECG was supposed to further the negotiations into when and how they will be paying the $2 billion debt that they owe the IPPs. What we've been told is that after that first meeting, right after the agreement was reached, the negotiation didn't proceed any further. And so the IPPs are unclear how government is trying to approach the payment of that money. And now, when the agreement was signed, you remember that the IPPs told us that they were supposed to finalize the agreement. And when they get back to the ECG, in the week of that agreement, they were supposed to be given some amount of payment. What we know is that that payment has also not happened. And so, informing this decision. And so they indicated that they would not hesitate to shut down their plant if all of this agreement is not honored by government through the ECG. And so we are waiting to know what decision they will come out with at the end of that meeting.
Right, and we're still monitoring that space. James Aveji getting the very latest for us on this. Edward Bauer is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament. Thank you, sir, for spending some time with us. The bill just keeps going up and piling up for the Electricity Company of Ghana, but we know now from the Vice President that 1 billion Ghana cedis on the average is the revenue being raised by the Electricity Company of Ghana each month. It may not be significant in clearing the entire energy sector debt, but you agree that the Vice President has done a good job, isn't it?
Good evening, my brother. First and foremost, if the Vice President claims that they do an annual revenue realization of about 1.2 billion, and this issue of quote unquote the attack on their system by workers within the ECG, why are we still not paying the bills? Well, this happened last year, May. So that's about a year ago. So why are we still not paying the bills? First, let me state that I was so disgusted that the Vice President will go on to accuse workers of ECG without proof. Because since May, not a single person has been arrested from the ECG staff, whether the IT or whatever, or the finance staff, and charged with a situation like this. So if for 1 year you have not been able to do that, and you scandalize the whole working community within ECG, that is so embarrassing. That's the first thing. Second point, the issue of debt, as we speak now, is based on electricity consumed. Do you understand the point I'm making? So it means that you and I bought power, we've paid for it, ECG has collected it. And ordinarily, if you collect something, and ECG collects this product on credit, if you collect products on credit and you sell, you pay back the person who supplied you, the supplier, is that not it? How come that as we speak now, they are not doing it? The reason is simple. They are using that money to procure crude. That means they are buying fuel for the power generating plant.
And how do you know this for a fact?
I've worked in the sector. I have worked in the sector for God knows how long. I have my sources. I am a member of the Mines and Energy Committee for 7 years. The point I'm just trying to make to you is that even the crude, the truth of the matter is that the crude that they are buying, you and I pay for it. Because crude oil or fuel in the tariff arrangement is a pass-through cost. So it means that it is factored into your tariff that you pay. So if it's factored into your tariff that you pay, how come that we have that challenge? But where I find very sad is that you had a chamber tell you that, look, we're going to shut down by the close of June if you did not give us at least 50%. You go into negotiations with them in good faith, and you indicate that, look, for the debt of 1.73 billion, we will have an arrangement to see how we'll pay for it. But the ensuing month, the month that we are dealing with, you will have your money paid for you. I don't know whether you're getting the point.
Yes, that was the last agreement, at least with government.
The agreement. Then you renege on that. You don't get back to them. And now you have an accumulation of debt going to 2.3 billion. And you have the vice president have the audacity to go to Pentecost Church and to make statements like this. Or the president saying that under my tenure, I will not close, power will not go down.
So your difficulty, yes, but your difficulty is that no names have been put out yet. Is it your expectation that the government, apologies for that, or by extension, the national security will put out some names of the individuals who were behind the malware?
My brother, this issue happened last year. My committee had the occasion to actually meet ECG on this issue. The truth is that if you listen to ECG staff, it's not the story they are narrating. It is because of the fact that the office of the vice president was involved in bringing a new contractor, who simply messed up the system. But you see, because he's gone on to make this statement, I believe that in the coming days, we will set the record straight. But for me, if you go and take a whole organization like ECG and say that their staff was sabotaging the company, and this was May last year, 2022, we are in July 2023. Not a single person has been arrested. Not a single person has been prosecuted. And you still go on a very huge platform like that to scandalize the workers of ECG. That is simply not acceptable. We all know where this debt is coming from. Look, my brother, today, do you know that as a country, we have run short of meters? So customers who want to connect to ECG, the grid, when they go to ECG today, they do not have meters. And because they do not have meters, it's not because they don't want to take one, but because the system cannot provide them with meters. They go to take illegal meters, some wayside meters that are not factored into the system, or they do illegal connections. Right. And all this power is not accounted for. And that is why ECG's own document suggests that between 2017 and 2022, the total debt incurred or loss incurred as a result of system losses, and that includes commercial losses, it's about 14 billion.
That's a significant amount. That's a significant amount. But now we know that the IPPs have been meeting today, and they may, we pray that doesn't happen, they may pull the plugs if nothing happens. Are you going to intervene from the parliamentary level, at least, to solve this?
You see, in the first place, when the 1.73 came, Parliament actually met the IPPs. And that's my committee. We met them in Koforidua. We pleaded with them. So if you look at the statement that was issued by the IPPs, they thanked the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Mines and Energy for intervening, because we intervened in this situation. I have realized that the strategy of this government is that let's just play hanky-panky with people. And by 2025 January, whether it is another MPP government or whether it is an NDC government, they will say that they had kept the lights on. But what it means is that they would have crippled the system. And I'm just talking to the IPPs. The IPPs must also be very frank with Ghanaians and state the facts as they are. They are not diplomats. They are businessmen. I do not want a situation where in the next government, whether it is an MPP government or it's an NDC government, you begin to start sabotaging that government with said debts and threatening to close, put down or put off power. So I am frustrated that at least the IPPs were reasonable enough to say that, look, so the 1.7 billion, we cannot just tell you in this phase, in the circumstances in which we find ourselves, we cannot tell you to just pay all the 1.7 billion. But the month that we are in, when the month ends, the bill, give it to us. Right. And that, again, you renege on that. This is a sign of irresponsibility. So to have the vice president create this impression, the question you ask yourself, okay, so you realize 1.2 billion a month. Is that not what he said?
Yes, precisely.
So if you realize 1.2 billion a month, how come you are not paying the people?
That's an interesting question that we'll definitely have to deal with in the coming days. Grateful for your time. Edward Barr is a member of the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament. The pharmaceutical industry is about to see a major policy shift as government explores removal of taxes on imported medicines and raw materials for local manufacturers. The move, according to the CEO of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Okoboy, indicates that that move will facilitate affordability and increased access to medicine, especially in the health facilities. This, he says, is a good news for the pharmaceutical companies, especially those serving under the National Health Insurance Scheme. He was speaking on the sidelines of the Private Health Insurance Forum here in Accra.
I mean, you know, some medicines are imported. So once we look at the tax regime, if you're able to reduce taxes on the medicines or take it off, then it will affect ultimately the price in the hospital. Secondly, even for those who are producing in Ghana, pharmaceutical companies will tell you they have what they refer to as the active ingredient. What they use for paracetamol, although it's made here, might be imported. Once you look at tax on that, it will affect medicine. So our job is to improve access. Access is not only being able to go to Lekman Hospital or Reach. If the medicine is cheap, it will make it easier to have it on the shelf. So government has a job to increase access. I mentioned the National electronic platform for pharmacy, the e-pharmacy project.
Well, so that's the indication we're getting from the NHIS. But how will this actually improve manufacturing and access to medication here in Ghana? I want to bring in now Dr. William Edemumado, who's president of the Pharmaceutical Importers and Wholesalers Association. Thank you, Doc, for your time. This must be good news for the pharmaceutical industry, correct? You're smiling already. Doc, we're having a challenge hearing you. You'd have to take that point again for us. I was asking if this is coming as good news for the industry.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yes, as I said, yes, it is. It's good news. Over the years, there's been a LI 2218 some years back that gave tax exemptions on APIs, that's active pharmaceutical ingredients, which the local manufacturers import. So when it was passed some years back, it helped the manufacturers to reduce their overhead cost of doing business, which in a way helped with the accessibility because it affected the price and it made it possible for them to do more manufacturing for the masses and for the hospital and everyone. As it was later on amended with our current government to give room for more products to be included in the list. So the LI 2255 was also introduced, which also helped expand the list. So currently the list of the APIs have been expanded where there's still more room for expansion because not everything is exempt in there. And also the 2255 also made provision for finished imported pharmaceuticals, which also helped with the access of the products and also it affected the price in a way. So it's a good news, as I said earlier, to hear the Chief Executive, Honorable Dr. Okoboy, saying that this kind of incentives are going to be enhanced to improve the accessibility. It's a good news.
Okay, but what will you prefer? That the amounts owed you are paid directly, or you would rather prefer the incentives?
Both, because so you if you sell anything and you don't get the money back, it's distribution, it's not sales. And we need the money back to function, to pay our utility bills, to pay our staff, to service our debts with the banks and other institutions. So we need the money as well. And you know, the utilities and the cost of business, when it's very high, makes it very difficult for you to operate because we are in a global world and once your prices are very high, it makes it difficult for you to even export when it comes to manufacturing. So we need both to function, and the better the environment is, the better we can.
I see. And this is also bringing up the conversation about expanding the reach in terms of the types of medications covered under the NHIS. You agree?
Yes. Yes, because, we are in a dynamic world. New research keep coming up. New medicines keep coming up. New diagnostic methods keep coming up. So it's good to have a way of expanding it over a period of time, because it can be static. And it will be good to have most of the drugs we need on the market, because in situations where you don't have the medicine readily available, then because of that, you have to do rapid import of the products. Whereas if it's just available within hand's reach, you can just buy and use it for the patient.
All right. Grateful for spending some time with us, Doc. Now to education. The West Africa Examination Council, WAEC, has disclosed that it is facing some financial challenges in fully organizing this year's West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination. That's the WAEC, due to some delayed payments or funding from government. John Kapis, the head of public affairs at WAEC, and confirmed that while some funds have been released, they fall short of covering all of the expenses for the crucial examination. The situation has sparked worry, with the minority in Parliament issuing a warning that both the WAEC and also the basic education exams could be at risk of being in limbo unless the outstanding arrears is cleared to WAEC.
The challenge for WAEC now is government's inability to release funds to them to perform their functions. Those who worked for WAEC last year, 2022, in the conduct of the West African Secondary School Certificate Examinations have not been paid the allowances due them. The supervisors, the invigilators, the examiners, and all other persons. So WAEC is unable to raise funds to meet their obligations. Last year, there was a deficit of about 83 million Ghana cedis, which government had to pay to WAEC. We had to talk before 50 million was released to them to enable them pay the examiners for 2021. Now, the examinations are about to start, or they have even started with the orals and practicals, and the WAEC is not having money to pay for last year's services. So we don't know what government is doing, and if care is not taken, the persons or the teachers who give us the service may not be ready to provide services again.
Well, there's more from Peter Nochukoto, who insists that WAEC is struggling and only a timely release of the funds from government will assure that the exams will come on.
For now, they need about 50 million to clear the previous year's arrears. Do you see it? Then what will be given for them to conduct the examinations for this year? You know, those who print their scripts for them, those who print answer booklets, they owe all of them. You see it? So if you don't pay, how would they provide those materials for you? Yeah, so my information is that government is struggling to give them some money by close of the week. And I cited information that is only 40 million. That may, I'm not very sure, will clear the arrears. But going forward, what do we do? Because I remember years ago when I was an examiner, we received our allowances on the day you hand over your marked scripts. But it is not the case now. So I think people are getting tired. People are losing interest in working for WAEC. And I think there's the need for government to back up.
And it's a good time now to hear from the Public Affairs Director for WAEC, John Kapi, who's joining us via Zoom. Thank you, sir, for your time. How true is it that the exams may not come off due to indebtedness on the part of government?
Thank you very much, and good evening to our listeners. Yes, we are owed some monies by the government, that is true. Some payments have been made. You know, issues with government are such that you don't have them come and give you 100% of whatever they owe you. They pay us in bits. As I speak, yes, we have been given some money, and this we are going to pay some of the invigilators and supervisors who worked for us last year. We also have received a check for 40 million Ghana cedis, and this is what we're going to use to conduct the examination for this year. Now, this certainly is not going to do the entire job, as it were. We would be able to do whatever we have to do up to a certain point. I'd want to explain something a little bit.
Right.
The conduct of examination takes a number of stages. We have the stage where we print the question papers. We have a stage for the conducting of the examination. The next stage would be the marking of the scripts, and then, of course, the release of results. As I speak, yes, we have money with which we can go out there and start with the conduct of the examination. But then the marking stage and the release of results stage, we will still need some more funds from the government, and this they have promised to provide.
Are we able to put figures to this? Do we know how much exactly government owes you now?
For BEC, well, we have budgets for each year. I'll speak to the budget for this year. For the previous year, some payments have been made. We need to reconcile some figures. But for this year, for BEC, for example, we need a total of 18 million Ghana cedis to be able to conduct the entire examination. As we speak, the government has given us 10.5 million Ghana cedis. So there's still a deficit there. And then for the WAS for school candidates, a total of 63.5 million Ghana cedis is required. We just received a check for 40 million Ghana cedis. Again, there is a shortfall. And our hope is that as the promises have been made, the government will make do the promises so that we'll be able to conclude the process smoothly.
The concern of parents out there, will the exams come off?
Certainly the exams will come on. I think I explained to you that there are stages. For the conduct, yes, from the 1st of this month, when we'll start with some of the practicals, up to the 26th of September, when the last paper will be written, yes, we have monies have been made available. Of course, I would say a check has been issued. We hope that this check will translate into cash, and then we'll be able to start. But on our part, we've been able to work up to a certain point. Now, the issue that we still have to grapple with will be sending officers out there to the field, and of course, getting invigilators and supervisors to do whatever job that we need them to do as far as the conduct of the examination is concerned. So once the check for 40 million translates into cash, yes, I can assure you we'll be able to conduct the examination.
Okay, and we're hoping that that amount will be cleared at the end of the day. Thank you for spending some time with us. John Kapi, head of PR at WAEC. You're watching Joy News Prime. When we return, we'll tell you why jurors in the Upper West region are walking out of the courts. Please stay. And thanks for staying with us. Now, rape, murder, and manslaughter cases in the Upper West region have now been suspended after members of the jury staged a walkout at the WA Higher Court. They accused the government of unfair treatment and have threatened not to return until all concerns are addressed. Joy News' Upper West regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports that the suspension of these cases will have a negative impact on justice delivery within the region.
According to the spokesperson of jury members at the WA High Court and panel members of the WA District Court, Hakim Suleiman, they have not been paid their certain allowances for almost 2 years. They have continuously complained to the Judicial Service of Ghana on their plight, but has continuously been ignored.
Attendance and sitting allowances that span from November 2021 up to date. And we have informed my Lord, the High Court judge, several, and then the judicial administrator and all those people concerned about their failure to honor this our payment.
The cruel reality, however, is that colleagues in other regions, according to them, have been paid.
Don't know whether it is a discrimination or a kind of thing of a sort. We can't tell why they have decided to pay all the other regions and left out Upper West region. So we think that we are undermined.
The jurors on Wednesday were supposed to sit on a murder case, but has to apologize to the court, truncate the process, and stage a walkout.
We attended all right, but we made it clear that we are not disrespecting the High Court, we are not disrespecting the lawyers present, and we are not disrespecting the people in the courtroom. So we apologize for our actions that we are going to take, but that we have to lay down our tools until our concerns are met.
For now, cases of murder, manslaughter, and rape are now on sine die. The jury members are saying that they will not sit unless these monies are paid to them.
Usually the attendance is 100 cedis and the sitting allowance is 100 cedis. So if you calculate, it depends on the number of attendance and the number of sittings that each jury member makes. So the amount varies from a person to the other. The more cases you are in, you have more monies to pick.
Bennett Ambambio Nakar is a lawyer with Derry & Co. and is not happy with the delay in the payment of the allowances, which he said will delay the justice delivery system.
But if in the instance case that the people of Upper West, they've not been paid, the jurors here, the case cannot go on a trial.
Officials and administrators at the Upper West Regional Administration Office of the Judicial Service of Ghana has meanwhile refused to speak to us on camera, except to say they have forwarded all necessary documents to the head office in Accra for their payments. There are other cases that are ongoing here at the court, but cases that have to deal with murder, manslaughter, and rape are not part. Reporting for the news, Rafik Salam. Wah.
And back here in the national capital, the Chief Justice Gertrude Tugono has made some key pronouncements on major cases currently pending in the courts. The first one involves the Yasin North Member of Parliament, James Judge Kwesen. Mr. Kwesen had wanted the Apex Court to put his criminal trial on hold and compel the Attorney General to furnish him with some documents he alleges had been denied him. Not only did the court turn down his request, it went a step further to comment on his conduct when he initiates processes to the High Court of the land. The Chief Justice herself pointed out that the MP fails to show up and tends to cause his lawyers to swear documents on his behalf, a conduct she considers irregular. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
Mr. Kwesen was seeking to halt his trial, arguing that the High Court got it wrong when it refused the request for prosecutors to be compelled to provide certain documents they had failed to disclose. Attorney General Govt Edemumado had told the court his office had supplied all documents to the legislator. He pointed the court to correspondence between his office and the MP's legal team, showing that documents in their possession had been examined. Lawyers for Mr. Kwesen, however, disagreed. They insisted the Attorney General cannot refer to those correspondence since they had not even filed an appropriate response. The High Court disagreed with this view, causing the MP's legal team to head to the Supreme Court. Mr. Kwesen's lawyer, Justin Teriwaja, urged the Apex Court to set aside the decision of the High Court. He insisted by relying on the correspondence, it meant the High Court used evidence not properly presented to it. The Attorney General disagreed. He first pointed out that even the processes filed was irregular, in that Mr. Teriwaja swore an oath and signed the current processes filed at the Supreme Court without showing that he had the authority of the MP to do so. Additionally, he pointed out that the MP's legal team were given the chance to argue out the matter extensively and address the court and the correspondence. The Supreme Court ruled that the High Court committed no error of law. The Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu had earlier expressed concern regarding what she says is the conduct of the Asin North MP. She pointed out that despite filing court processes, he failed to show up more often than not and allows his lawyers to swear statements on his behalf. The Chief Justice said such conduct was irregular and should not be encouraged. On the trial of the minority leader Dr. Atoforsen, Court of Appeal Judge Efia Sewa Asaribotri has been given a green light to continue handling the case. Businessman Richard Jakpa, who is standing trial alongside the minority leader, had petitioned the Chief Justice alleging the judge was biased. The Chief Justice dismissed the petition, but the minority leader's team has urged the judge to recuse herself, leveling their own allegations of bias. They say the judge had threatened to cause the arrest of their witnesses and close the leader's case should he fail to get witnesses to come to court. The Attorney General disagreed with this view and the court has set October 12 to deal with the matter.
And now, government says it is ready to support private hospitals in delivering quality and affordable healthcare services to Ghanaians. According to Deputy Health Minister Tina Gifty Mensa, government alone cannot solve all the health needs of the country, hence the need for private investment into the healthcare sector. She was speaking at the first anniversary of the chosen hospital and fertility center. Ghana is amongst many of the countries around the world seeking to attain universal health coverage in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. However, given the arduous task of expanding healthcare services across the country, the Ministry of Health says it is closely working to secure private sector investment into the health sector. Speaking to the media at the first anniversary of the chosen hospital and fertility center, Deputy Minister for Health Tina Gifty Mensa expressed gratitude for the improvements in the private sector.
The Ministry of Health as a sector places premium on universal health coverage as a vehicle necessary for the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal 3 by the year 2030. As a result, we are putting in every effort to ensure that all people living in Ghana have access to equitable, quality, affordable, and evidence-based preventive and curative health services without any financial burden. However, it must be emphasized that government cannot do it all alone, and this is why we wish to applaud the chosen hospital and fertility center for this initiative. That seeks to, yes, we have to applaud them for this initiative. That seeks to contribute significantly to the improvement of the health and well-being of women in Ghana. Government through the Ministry of Health shall continue to collaborate with all stakeholders to strengthen health systems and to cultivate an enabling environment where health professionals can continue to provide quality and accessible health services at all times.
The event also brought together traditional rulers, regulators, and some other stakeholders. Dr. Isaac Kofi Edu, a clinical embryologist at the chosen hospital, called on Ghanaians to embrace private health services so as to get quality and affordable health care.
We must recognize that our hard work is not done. The road of excellence, or the road to excellence in healthcare and parenthood, is unique for each individual and couple, and we must continue to explore new avenues, conduct research, and expand our expertise. This facility will keep striving to maintain the high quality of innovation, embracing cutting-edge technologies, and also advocating for the emotional and physical well-being of our patients. Together we will forge ahead, united in our pursuit of fulfilling dreams and bringing joy to individuals and families. We will especially continue to break barriers, dispel myths, and stand as a beacon of hope for those seeking the gift of life.
And the Ministry of Education has reinstated a student who was assaulted by a colleague at Disadel College. School authorities had initially suspended the culprits and the victim. In a viral video, the suspect held the colleague in a chokehold and slammed his head against the metallic bankbag. Deputy Education Minister John Ntimfojo says psychological support has been provided to all those involved.
Adisadel College has been in the news for the past 4 days over a viral video involving a final year student assaulting his colleague. The incident happened on June 30, 2023, but was not reported to the school authorities until the video went viral. This has subsequently led to the suspension of the students involved. Deputy Education Minister Rev. John Itim Fojo on Thursday visited the school where he engaged the students, staff and the media.
Now we addressed the matters, we interrogated the matters, a number of facts were stated, and we directed, among other things, some steps that ought to be taken. One of the first steps we directed them to take was to ensure that the student that got injured has been given a thorough medical examination and has also undergone various treatments to ensure that he's well and healthy. That I immediately saw. I personally took him to the hospital, and the doctors were very supportive, took him through very thorough medical examinations. The next day they certified that he is well and there's no significant harm, there's no harm whatsoever that has been occasioned by the incident, and any other treatment that was appropriate was then given to him and he was discharged. Following that, we also reversed an initial decision that had been taken at the school level, which is to do with the suspension of the injured student. As soon as we invited the head to Accra and the regional director, we reversed that decision that the injured student ought not to be suspended. So we reinstated him and given all the psychosocial support that he needs. Beyond that, we also ensured that even the other affected students, the perpetrator, the accomplices, the onlookers, all of them involved in the case were also given the needed psychosocial support.
Mr. Fojo encouraged the students to continue giving their colleagues involved in the case their support and love.
And next is showbiz. And it's time to hear from Becky, who's joining us with showbiz.
Yeah, today is Thursday. Let's throw back to Tego's sisters, and happens to be their birthday. Yeah. They're celebrating their 58th birthday.
Hooray!
Hooray! And so we're throwing the spotlight on Tego sisters. Here's all you need to know about them. About Kitty, because Kitty,
no, I've not heard about him.
Yeah, he's back now, and he's been opening up about rumors that made round that he had stroke. He spoke to Andy Dusty on Daybreak Hits.
It was a very uncomfortable time, for me, my family, everybody involved, because
Okay, when the news broke, when first did you hear it?
Kobe sent it to me.
What were you doing?
I was at home. I was at home, and then he just said, "Have you seen this?" And he said it so casually, like, "Have you seen this?" So
Kobe is what, your manager?
My road manager.
Okay.
Like, he said, "Have you seen it?" I was like, "Oh, no, I haven't." So I read, I was like, I sat up. I was like, so what is going on? And in the span of like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, my phone started like ringing. Different people were calling everywhere. I was like, like, that thing at Thomas. So I was like, what is going on? I went on social and I was like, is everything okay? And then it was everywhere. I realized that everybody was. I had to turn off my phone. My mom called. I was speaking to my mom that morning, but she called again because she wanted to be sure that
she had also heard it.
Yeah, she also. It was everywhere. Like, she wanted to be sure that she spoke to me in the morning. Was I hiding something? I was like, Mom, I'm actually okay. Like, there's nothing like that's going on. It's what we know, but not this. So it was just a very worry for the brands I work with. My
Kitty right there. But Blessed, before we go, 2 days more to the third edition of Showbiz Roundtable, which happens this weekend at the Labadi Beach Hotel. The event will explore dynamics of sponsorship in the creative space on a panel. So the panel will be Baba Sadiq. He's the founder of 3 Music TV and Wilderland First. Latif Abubakar is a playwright, and also Regina Ofori is brands director and consummate marketer. Ivan Kwashiga is also a filmmaker. He will be there. Kobi Atta Bedu will also be there too. We have like the guest speakers who Uncle Bob White. He will be guest speaking on that particular.
So the 29th
of on Saturday.
July.
Yeah, it's on Saturday. Yeah,
and,
we're all headed.
Grateful they're talking about sponsorship.
Yeah,
we need the money for the creatives.
Where is the money?
Sikano way. Okay, that's all we have for you in this package. And bless us again. Log on to myjoyonline.com. You'll get.
We're here together. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks to Becky as well.
Thank you.
We'll see you.